Good evening and welcome to this edition of the Island Stats Football Show. I'm your host, Earl Basin. Joining me as co-host, Maceo Dill. We are awaiting the arrival of Coach Keita. But Maceo, the FA Cup final has now been set. We will see the league champions, Dandytown Hornets, take on the PHC Zebras. Both teams winning 2-1. Ironically, the Dandytown Hornets needed extra time to defeat Devonshire Cougars yesterday 2-1. And then today, the PHC Zebras edged North Village 2-1. This after North Village took the lead. So mouth-watering. I know they had that big blowout, the 5-2 victory in the final game of the season where Dandytown defeated PHC. I think there will be a little different this time around in the final, but let's make sure that we don't overlook the Wednesday night final as Dandytown Hornets look to win that Triple Crown, and it's all in their plate. Now, let's first talk about that match against Devonshire Cougars yesterday, which is somewhat of a prelude to Wednesday night's friendship final.
Yeah, I mean, the circumstances, the match yesterday, while I don't think the match was of high quality, the circumstances and the tension that surrounded the match made it very intriguing, right? It made it very, very intriguing. And it started off frankly with two excellent goals. The first goal was taken by Kamali Davis for Dandytown, and Dandytown were in the ascendancy and were in control of the match. And I thought it was a crucial move for Lejean Simmons to switch from the right wing to the left wing, and he was pitted against Dandytown's young kid, Matthew, I believe his name is, and he took full advantage of it. Lily took full advantage of that. He cut inside and he scored a screamer. So two really, really good goals to set up an intriguing match. But the match did fade in the second half because of the amount of substitutes, injuries, and it did fade. And as it went on, you just knew Dandytown was going to figure out a way to get the match across the edge. And that's what they've done, right? They've done that all season. Dandytown's done it all season, figuring out a way to win games. But if you go into the detail of it, let's go into a little bit of the detail of the match. I thought at 1-0, Cougars missed a trick. So they took off the hard working midfielder and brought on Jawande.
Jawande, yes.
And I thought, to take off that hard working midfielder because he was containing the creativity of Dandytown's midfielder, I thought a better substitute would have the Jawande go at striker and take off Shekai Zul, and you would have been able to push D'Amico Coddington out wide and playing one-on-one, and Jawande can hold the ball up and occupy those two strikers. But I think Cougars coaching staff missed a trick with that, because at that point Cougars were starting to gain a foothold and control that game and threaten Dandytown as Dandytown were sort of coming down with injuries. Dandytown lost Jamie Bean early in the match. So I think Cougars really missed a trick to get one over on Dandytown with that substitute. And what you effectively had in Cougars' midfield, you had Jawande, you had Wallace Son, and you also had Kadir. All of them are ball playing midfield.
Yeah, they love the ball.
They love the ball, but none of them will really work. None of them do a whole lot of work to win that ball. So they, and that allowed Dandytown to start to push forward.
They missed another opportunity as well when Azende got sent off for a second bookable offense. Yeah. But having those three fighting for time for the ball, I think that works against them as well because having not pushing an extra man forward, because a lot of those guys, Jawande could probably play the position the best with his back to goal. But Kadir is not a player that's going to play with his back to goal, and neither is Wallace by that. He's just not going to do that.
Yeah.
He likes to win the ball in the midfield, and he likes to play the ball, spray the ball wide, and that is something that is his talent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to try to change that would have been a little different. Now, having said that, you have other players that could have fit into another role and still allowed those guys to do that. You had the ball winner go off. Now you have to get one of them to become a ball winner.
Ball winner, which that's not their natural habitat.
Right, and even a man down, Dandy Town still stayed in the game because they still had people willing to fight for the ball.
For the ball, exactly right. I think Cougars missed the big trick in that one. And so they never ever gained an advantage having an extra man because you had three similar type of players sitting in the midfield, and Jawande, his son, and Kadir.
Yeah.
And none of them were really looking to run out of the midfield and support the defense. So I think that was a talent factor in that match.
Yeah, it even makes it more interesting for comes Wednesday night. Okay, so that mistake or that matchup was made. Now you know that those three can never really play in that familiar position that they like to play, because if you look at it, Quadir loves the ball to dribble and to play. Both Bascom and the other one, they love to spray the ball. Yeah. They love to spray the ball. They love that passing style of football.
Yeah.
So those three, if they're on the field together on Wednesday night, they're not all playing in the midfield.
Yeah.
One of them going to have to sacrifice and play up front.
Yeah, and Jawande can play up front. He can occupy. He's smart enough to occupy the two center halves. And Danny Ton had makeshift center halves because the regular center halves had to go off, right?
Right.
So he would have been smart enough to occupy. He would have been smart enough to get D'Amico Cottington one-on-one on the wings, Lejean one-on-one on the wings, and it could have been a whole different dynamics for Cougars. So that was a strange decision. But as I reflect on Dandy Town, they keep making the right decisions, how they manage the game and how they manage these circumstances. I mean, they had no right to win that game because they was dropping like flies, right? They actually won the game and they had 9 men on the field.
Right.
They won the game and they had 9 men on the field, but they keep doing the right things at the right times, and I'm highly impressed with how the coach manages his substitutions. So he knew he had to get Beachy on the field. He knew he had to get Angelo. So I watched how he did it. He said, okay, I need to keep Kamali on the field because he's a match winner. I need to keep Sequoia on the field because his experience is another match winner. How do I get Beachy? How do I adjust his system and get Beachy on the field because his experience and is a match winner? So I watched how he did that, and then he had to make a big decision because he needed to get Low on the field. He had to make a big decision in taking Sequoia off, and he's not afraid of the big decisions. And that's coaching, man. You're not afraid of the big decisions, and you're brave enough to make those big decisions in a match like that. Everything's on the line, right?
Yeah.
And you're taking your experienced player and Sequoia off, but Sequoia was losing his legs, to be fair.
Right. But the good thing is, Nico Lewis come up through the Dandy Town Rex, so he knows the system. So they pretty much just needed some fresher legs and some new ideas in that position in which he came on in, which would have forced Devonshire Cougars to defend a little more. And I think that's where the coaching was that difference made it, because he's fresher. He's able to make those runs. He's able to make those decisions and force the back four of Devonshire Cougars to defend now, because he is a fresher guy. The youngster that went off for Angelo, I saw his expression. He was highly disappointed at having to come off. But what would you tell a youngster at that junction is, listen, you've done what we've asked you to do. Now it's time. You come off and you watch, and the next time you get an opportunity, what you do is you tell me, force me to take someone else off because I'm going to do a little more. I'm not saying that he played bad, what the problem was that he wasn't as effective as someone. Now when Angelo comes on, the Devonshire Cougars defenders now must really pay attention, because, as you know, he could score from anywhere, or he could create something for somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, from the experience side.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So the coaching changed the circumstances. The substitutes changed the circumstances in Danny Town's favor, allowed him to go forward.
Right.
You know, it really did. So when I look at those details, those coaching details, I'm like, okay, yeah, you know, and I'm highly impressed with Dankins, because he's shown that he's a learned coach. He's shown that he is a very much learned coach, where he could see something, he's going to learn, he's brave enough to implement it, you know. And whereas I looked at Kwame on the other end, he's very stuck to what he wants to do. You know, I think we spoke of this all the time. He's very stuck to his philosophy of the game, and sometimes his philosophy of the game and his style of the game causes him the result. And I think it caused him the result. Whereas Danny Town, I mean, look what they did. They brought on Jade Samuels. He ended up playing center back.
Yeah.
And he was controlling the back. He was controlling the back. He had to change from being a girls' school to playing a center back to get that game across the line.
But if you look at Jazade, he is a player that is smart enough to know whatever position he's playing, he's got to play that position and play that role. And you've seen that. I mean, we still look at him as a young man, and he is a young man, but he's been in positions in teams where he's led teams. You know what I mean? So that experience comes in, and he has enough confidence in himself that could say, you know what? If I'm going to be sweeper today, this is my job. This is my role. This is what I have to do to help my team. So, you know, 3 weeks ago, he scores the winner in extra time against PHC.
Against PHC, man.
This week, he's now got to be the guy to stop Devonshire Cougars and help Dandy Town advance to the final.
Yeah, man. He's building, and that's what coaching does. You're making players better, right? You're building big day players, man. You're putting people in position to be big day players. I mean, we already know what got the established big day players in BG, and Sequoia Robinson, you know, and the other one that's starting to impress me as a big day player is Goda. You know, he's stepping up in situations, right? He's stepping up in situations. So you're building these big day players that are capable on the day and delivering. You know, and that's what Danny Town should.
I always admired Goda when he first came out with Dandy Town, and then he left and went to Robin Hood. In the Robin Hood system, it was totally different than the one that Dandy Town played, because they had a lot of quality individual players, and they played off of sheer talent. And his first year at Robin Hood, he actually had a great season because he was new to the system, and they allowed him to do a lot of running free. When they got the next season around, they kind of tried to mold him into a player that they wanted, and he didn't have such a good time. Now he's back at Dandy Town in the system that he's come up on. He seems that freer player. No, he's not scoring as many goals, but he's creating so many opportunities for so many other players. And you talk about Kamali Davis, the opportunity that was created out of nothing in the second half, where he rounded the keeper, but just took too long to take the shot, and then it ended up going wide. But out of that, you know, Goda created that, running off the ball once, getting back involved in the play, and then slipping the ball through, and there he had the opportunity. So he's actually, although he's still quite the youngster, he's actually become a senior player in that team because he's been in that mode for so long.
Yeah, he's shown his maturity, and you know, he's grown on me. I always struggle to figure out what is Goda's best position. You know, I always struggle. What is his best position? Because he's not out and out goal scorer per se. He's not a creative midfielder per se. But I think his best position, if I look at it from an international state, is that the work that he puts in, the work that he puts in to create opportunities for others. I think that's his best position, because he's not really a number 10. You know? So is the work that he can actually put in, and a player that that I would rate him against is Arango at PAT.
Yeah.
That's a player that I will rate him against. Rango's he could pop up in big situations and score big goals, but most of the thing Rango was doing is working for everybody else to be able to play. And I think if Goda commits himself to that type of position, he now becomes an international player for me. He becomes an international player if he commits himself to that type of position.
Sure. Well, we're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk about today's game, PHC edging North Village 2-1. We'll be right back.
Putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
This month, John Barrett & Son bring us a premium thirst quencher from North Carolina, the Blue Ultra Purified Water. Many other bottled waters use reverse osmosis to reach an acceptable level of purity. Le Bleu uses a 5-step purification process, which includes fractional vapor compression, distillation, and ozonation, assuring purity and a unique, appealing flavor. Consumer testimony repeatedly praises the taste of Le Bleu compared to the other brands, and this, along with superior purity, makes Le Bleu a must-try. Lynn knows. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends, and that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Welcome back. Well, second semifinal also ended 2-1, but in regulation time, North Village scored early from the penalty spot. PHC managed to equalize from the penalty spot. But that first half, both teams, it was hard to identify how this game was going to materialize, because they both looked as if they didn't want to lose, and the struggle was looking for that goal. North Village created a few chances. PHC created a little more direct chances, but that finishing touch was just not there. That first 45 minutes was a struggle.
Yeah, it wasn't another game that wasn't particularly a good game, and it wasn't as exciting as the Dannytown and Cougars game because the stakes wasn't that high. We always knew the stakes were high for Dannytown, and you're absolutely right. You couldn't see a clear pattern developing in the game. The only thing that I was picking up in the game that PHC were well aware of the shaky defense that they have. Mm-hmm. They were well aware, so they were panicked anytime that ball was in their defensive line. You can sense the panic amongst the fans. You can sense the panic amongst the players, and that panic showed up in the penalty. Mm-hmm. That penalty showed up. All North Village did is get in the box, win the ball, and a rash tackle by the PHC defender led to a penalty. And the same could be said of North Village, that they were very shaky in their defense, and the first time Antoine Russell gets in the defense and gets behind the fence, he encourages a foul from the goalkeeper and a penalty. So I mean, and it was 3 penalties in the game. So it shows. I mean, that tells his own story, right?
Yeah.
It tells his own story, and it's strange, right? Because of the amount of firepower PHC's got, that didn't really show up. What did show up later in the game is PHC was just gonna wear North Village down. They was gonna physically wear North Village down. And I think North Village missed the trick too, because you didn't see Ryan Simons out there. North Village missed the trick because North Village has got 5 overseas players that could have added value to this game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was was thinking that maybe that would have been to add value to their season and this game, as clubs have done in the past. They would have reached out to a few of those players to be able to come back, because North Village didn't even have anything of significance of firepower coming off the bench to help them to change the outcome of the game. And you had Pierre, Pierre that had to go the duration of it. He was fading, his legs are getting heavy as he ages, and they just didn't have anything. They just didn't have it. So they was like sitting ducks to PHC's, constant raids.
I felt, especially the first half, I felt when North Village was leading, the defense stayed organized. You could hear them communicating. The minute PHC scored, that self-belief on the field, I think, disappeared a bit. The communication wasn't as strong. They sent it off, and PHC created another chance right off of their sent-off.
Right off the sent-off, yeah.
And no one in the back four, and the back four is led by Taryn Frey, who's the captain. You got to take control of things. You know what I mean? You don't panic. You got to take control of things. And I think that's where they lacked in that leadership in the back four. The goalkeeper done his best as he could to keep them, into the game. But the back four when they were leading, PHC were a bit, on the offensive side of arguing just a little bit.
Yeah.
But what I felt was considered encouraging guys in the way that they speak to each other nowadays. Some people like to say that they're arguing, but I think the way PHC were trying to get the back four to keep the ball from their end, get it up to the lively strikers. I mean, you look at someone like Antoine Russell, Enrique, you had Marco Warren up there running. You had you had the likes of guys up there. Just they were able to find space, but as long as the back four had the ball, you weren't going to find any space because they were kind of holding on to the ball, and a few times North Village could have capitalized on it. However, when that goal, like I said, when that equalizer went in, the North Village communication on the field of the back four kind of fell off a little bit.
Yeah, you can see North Village is a team that's lacking a lot of confidence in themselves. You can see that. I mean, the goal would have gave them a little confidence. Once it was 1-0, it was like, yeah, we can do that. You can see the body language, the behavior with the North Village. They just and the opposite could be said about PHC. They felt that they should beat the game. They just had constant raids. I mean, I saw the penalty. That was the penalty. Enrique Russell, drove in the box. He beat one, and Frey came across and put in a tackle that he shouldn't have never put in. And Enrique Russell was always going to go over. He was always going to go over, and it was a clear penalty. It was a clear penalty, and Antoine scored both of them. He confidently stepped up and scored both of them, and that just makes a interesting dynamics where PHC's got to play Dennytown in the FA Cup Finals. That to be fair, the game didn't lie. The results of where each team is the correct results. Right? Dennytown giving themselves a chance to win the Covenant
Triple Crown.
Mm-hmm. And they deserve that opportunity. They really do deserve that opportunity based on what they've done over the season and what they overcame this season. And PAC just fell apart in the season. They became a charity, man. They became
Crucial times, yeah, crucial
they
times.
became a charity. Their defense became a charity. As much goals as they was able to score, they just became a charity, and giving up goals at the end of the season.
Mm. Well, I mean, if you look at it, right? I mean, they've had taken turns with goalkeepers. So, as you know, when you have a different goalkeeper in every once in a while, the confidence rises, confidence, and then when you have defenders who are not what we want to say quality passers of the ball, they're ball winners, not quality passes of the ball. You create another chance and you create another problem, and that's why I remember at the beginning of the season we talked a lot about Marco going so deep to get the ball, and of course he indicated to us and to everyone that they don't have a creator in their back four. So he wanted to become that person going back to get the ball and becoming the creator, and he done that a bit today as well.
To move the ball up the field,
to make sure that the supply to the front runners was given somewhat of a quality pass to try and make something happen. Now, when you have someone like Marco who is that deep, you're missing something up front, but he seems to find a way somehow, some way to stay involved in both ends
both sides of it.
So when you have someone like that, it bodes well for your team. Now, how do you avoid, quote unquote, a burnout of a player like that?
Interesting. Well, I mean, that has to do with training, right? I think he's missed a step this season as well. He's obviously missed a step. His first season back from that knee injury, and I mean, he used to be able to do that type of work, right? He used to be able to do that type of work, but you could see his a little bit missed a step, and it'd be interesting to see what happens and how they set up in their last game. And the last game's going to be up National Stadium, so I think that surface up there could favor PHC style, but Danny Towns just keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at it, okay, so Danny Town will miss on Wednesday night. Will miss the service of Azende because of his red card. We don't know the status of Jermaine. Whether or not he'll be available Wednesday, let alone Sunday. But we know that Dandy Town have resources. Now, we're going to take another commercial break, but when we come back, we got to talk about it because the coach actually departs or scheduled to depart on Tuesday for international duty.
Okay. And we talked about this. We talked about this early part.
When we come back, we'll talk about Wednesday night's semifinal, Wednesday night friendship final at the Philadelphia Southfield National Sports Center. We'll be right back.
The history of everyday use of spices extends back thousands of years into antiquity. Since 1976, the Frontier Natural Foods Co-op has been bringing a wide range of exciting and authentic flavors to the table. A comprehensive range of ancient traditional herbs and spices produced organically and sustainably. The results are good news for the environment and more robust, fragrant essential oils in these natural seasonings. This month, we're featuring Frontier Natural Products, at least 95% organic salt-free lemon pepper. Lindo's. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends, and that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
just putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
Welcome back. Well, I know I surprised you with that, but yes, the national under-17 women's team are scheduled to depart on Tuesday or Wednesday, traveling to the Dominican Republic for their World Cup qualifiers. And of course, the head coach for that particular team is none other than Karen Jenkins.
Yeah, I mean, we're talked about this, right? We're talked about overwhelming ourselves with responsibilities, right? And I mean, he's got two exciting potential responsibilities. I mean, as a coach, you know, you want to be here at this time. Like you want to be there and be a part of that detail, and you also want to be with the girls national team if you're done the work to prepare to get them there. You know, and I just don't think, my personal thing, don't think these dual roles are sustainable for the individual, and they're not sustainable for our progress either. You know, they're just not sustainable. You know, unless he goes down to New Zealand and starts cloning himself. I know in New Zealand they clone balls and stuff like that.
Right. Well, we could say that if you have an abundance of people. Mm-hmm. Well, we're limited to what we have. So
I have a different opinion, because I think we have enough people to be involved. They're just, for whatever reasons, they're not involved. And I say that because I know that I will be involved as a national coach. I know I've made that very, very clear. I know other coaches that will be involved at that level. So I know that, you know, as I survey the coaching environment in Bermuda, I know all the coaches that will make themselves available, right? So I have a different view that there are coaches and people available. Yes, you probably have to bring people up to speed as to what you're doing at that level, but it is people available to share this responsibility, you know. And I know the BFA talked about it from a budget standpoint. You know, the ability, they don't have a big treasure cash of funds to pay people, but there are people that are involved that are willing to offer their services to their country. You know, I know that for a fact. Yeah.
No, and we want to talk openly about it, but you have people that want to get involved even if there's no commitment, and then the minute there's a commitment or there's progress, then all of a sudden you have a bunch of people jumping on a bandwagon saying, okay, I can help out, I can do this, I can do that. But I think the program, especially, and I'm particularly talking about the women's program, they have been ignored by so many for so long. Now that they're doing well, and they've done well for a number of years, although they haven't had as many games, now you see a lot of quote-unquote interest in it. I'll draw a reference. The women's national hockey team have won the group, and they've advanced to the CAC games, right? Now, all of a sudden, people who had talked bad about the program, wouldn't get involved in the program, are now coming out of the woodwork saying, oh, I'll help now, I'll do this and I'll do that. But where were they when they needed them to help organize it, to help get them going, to give them, you know, that extra work? That's the problem that we face all the time. And what happens is that the organization then says, you know what, okay, we're gonna have to make a tough decision. And you know what, you weren't there at the beginning. We'll ride this one out and see what happens next.
And that's where I would, if I had the ability, that's where I would make a different decision, regardless of when people want to be involved. When I know that I need the resources, and I get what you're saying. I mean, I've been the donkey worker at clubs and done work. As soon as it starts to go good, everybody wants a piece of it. But then you you still invite people in and give them roles because we need resources of people. We do need. So I would make a different decision than people put their hand up and want to be involved. And it's quite normal. It's quite normal that people jump on a bandwagon. It is quite normal in the world. Like, I mean, look how many people became City fans, right? So we still have to, and we can find people to share the load if we open up and bring different people in, especially people that potentially have a diverse opinion. And I know there's a number of factors in having people involved, because some people I can only speak for me. Having me involved, of course, I'm going to bring a diverse opinion. I'm going to bring in a different opinion. But how do we bridge that gap between an opinion and experience that I can be based on what the opinion and the culture is there? I actually like to have diverse opinions, and for the interest of the project, So it is a number of factors, but I think we have to like, even if we're looking at the girls program, that some acts out, that players that had self acts out, I mean, and they want to come back involved, we need to get them involved.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the players. I'm talking about at the coaching and administration level.
Whatever reason.
That's what I'm talking about.
Because at the end of the day, when we have our best resources involved, is better for our country, and that's
I would agree.
That's the piece as and that's what I'm always on about. How do we bridge the gap between our personality differences, our philosophy differences, and create a collective team that supports our country? Like, how do we figure out how to bridge that gap?
So one of the things you first want to do is make sure that whoever you're bringing in is open to listening and following the instructions of everything that's going on, not just coming in and saying, I don't want to do it that way, I want to do it this way. If you have divisiveness in the ranks of coaching or leadership, then that's going to filter through the team. And if you already got the team believing in the system and the formation that you want to play and so forth, yes, you could have ideas. Yes, you could implement different things, but you don't come in and say, I want to change it all. I want to do it my way. That's when the biggest problem comes, when you allow too many of those type of people into the program that think they should take it over day one.
No, I'm feeling you. I understand exactly what you're saying, and the program, and I used to always have that conversation at North Village. Like, I can always speak at North Village. Have your methodology of doing stuff and bring people in that can fit into that methodology. And say, this is our methodology, and maybe there's a conversation that something gets added to that methodology from the person that you bring in. But here's the basic concept of the methodology that we're moving along. This is the pathway that we're moving along, and this is what you're gonna do. And that's actually what happens in other jurisdictions as a coaching, right? Because think what happens. What I've learned in watching coaching outside of Bermuda. So let's suggest that the head coach changes at a club, and then everything changes, right? The philosophy changes. So what you have now is these coaching companies. So you have a coaching company that has a pool of 10 to 15 coaches.
Right.
And okay, they'll go into this club, and this club has this philosophy as this is how they're playing, and you have to implement the philosophy that the club's playing. It becomes very rigid as the philosophy, so that the philosophy doesn't change every time somebody new comes in. Right. So if you relate that to Bermuda, here's our philosophy. Here's what we're building towards. Here's how we want to play the game. Here's what it needs to look like. And anybody that comes on board has to be able to work within that philosophy and plan.
Well, and that's just the thing. And you can expect in this off season some coaching changes. You can expect this off season some people moving. But it's again, it's the club that's going to have to realize, along with the coaches or whoever they get, to decide whether or not that person fits. France, if you're getting a new coach, does he fit into the philosophy of this team, of this club's program?
What talked about Jamal taking the Dennytown concept of Somerset. I know Somerset's culture and philosophy of football. Like I know what that looks like. It's ingrained in their history. I know North Village's way of football. I know Dennytown. I know PAT's way of football. So, are you bringing people in? Are you bringing people in that fit into that and enhance it? Enhance it. And we talked about the struggle that Jamal was going to have at Somerset. And I actually think, while Kenneth's philosophy of football is a good one, I think it's not North Village's philosophy. It's not the way how North Village philosophy. And a clear indication of what North Village football looked like is when we saw the girls play the other day up there. Very short passes around the corner, in the gaps, that type of football. And Kita's just ingrained in that culture, right? And is now becoming part of a Bermuda culture of football, And I also see Carl Lightbourne looking to implement that at the men's team as well.
A lot of that is due to our physicality. I mean, look at our players. We don't have very tall players, so we have to play to our strengths. And I can recall back in 2019 during the Nations Cup, that was one of the emphasis put on it. We had to play to our strengths, and our strength was short pass and bouncing the ball in, bouncing the ball back out, keeping the ball on the carpet as much as possible, trying to play through the lines, that type of thing to allow us to stay in games. We were never going to be able to outjump some of these teams to try and get crosses. I mean, what's Nikki? 5'8"?
5'8", if that.
Look at our front line. We had Zico, Nikki, and Lee Jean as front runners. Yeah. We were not going to win a header inside the box.
We were not going to win a header inside the box.
Score goal. Yeah. So we have to look at other ways of getting forward. Now, when we had set pieces and you allowed the Dantes to go forward, we had opportunities. But in free play, unless it was a ball that beat the defender, we were not going to score in the air. So we have to play to our strength. And if you look at our women's team, the women's national team that just played on Wednesday night, look at it. Up front, you had Nia Christopher. You have Leilani Nisbet playing just behind her. You had out on the wing, you had two other small people. We're not going to win the ball in the air, so we have to play to the strength. And that's, I think, what the country has to look towards more and more of.
Yeah, no, I agree. Watching the game the other night where you got a chance to see what they're trying to do and they wasn't under the severe pressure of a Jamaica, it was pleasing on the eye. It was pleasing on the eye as to what they were attempting to do. And it's a lot of work to build on that, but you can see what they're attempting to do. And you're seeing that with the men when they're playing appropriate opposition, what they're attempting to do. So that goes back to, if you bring anybody into the field, they have to be able to fit into that philosophy. And I think if we have the conversations as coaches as we do, we would find that we're similar in a lot of ways. And we can marry like the things that we're learned in our club system. We can bring little tweaks to support us at our national level, right?
Sure. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to take another commercial break. When we come back, obviously, we're going to talk a bit about now Wednesday night, and of course, Sunday's all-important matchup in both the Shield final and the FA Cup final. We'll be right back.
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
most of us identify pasta with the joys of Italian food, the most popular cuisine on the planet. After all, pasta is the staple food of Italy, where hundreds of varieties are enjoyed daily. While traveling in the Far East, the founder of the Explore Cuisine company was surprised and impressed by the variety of exotic pastas he found, sampled, and enjoyed there, and resolved to bring this knowledge back to enrich the cuisine of the West. This month, we're featuring delicious Explore Cuisine organic mung bean fettuccine and black bean spaghetti. Lindo, why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. Well, as we know, on Wednesday night, the Friendship Final will take place, and ironic, the Shield Final will take place on the same day as the FA Cup Final. As we know, traditionally, it's usually the Shield Final and the Friendship Final, but unfortunately, this year, with Denley Town facing Devonshire Cougars in the semi-final of the FA, one of those two teams were going to make it into the final of the FA Cup. Hence, you couldn't have the Shield Final, well, the FA Cup Final and the Shield Finals and the Friendship Final all on the same day. So they moved the Friendship Final to Wednesday night at 8 o'clock at the National Sports Center, Philadelphia Southfield Stadium. So we saw those two teams play yesterday, Denley Town and Devonshire Cougars. What do you think Devonshire Cougars would need to do this Wednesday to change their fortunes?
Well, here's a crucial fact. Kwame, as a coach, has never won a final, either at Denley Town or at Cougars. So he will be conscious of that. He will be very conscious of his, and he's only a young coach in perspective. He's only a young coach, but he'll be very conscious of not having won a final. So, and I've seen the ways how he's lost finals. I saw the way how he lost as Denley Town coach to Cougars last year. Where he had the dominant team at that time. He had the dominant team, and the way how he keeps losing finals is he's committed to this way of playing the game, and he tries to keep playing the game the way how he wants to play it versus getting the game across the line. And if you saw the difference in Denley Town decided to get the game across the line no matter what it looked like. Because when we reflect on history, history's not gonna talk about how you play it, right? History is gonna talk about whether you won the final or you lost it. So my thing with Kwame is he needs to get the game across the line by hook or crook, not based on how he's in love with how the game should be played. We become so in love with how the game should be played. And let's take it from a different level. We know Pep Guardiola is so in love with how the game is played. Sometimes he overthinks himself, doesn't he? He makes certain changes, to implement his system or his style of play that is sometimes undermined. Well, it's not sometimes. He's undermined the ability to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in finals, it's just about getting the game across the line. So that's the key that I would encourage Kwame to take into you got to figure out how to get the game across the line one way or another.
Yes. Well, it'd be an interesting matchup. And then on Sunday at 2 p.m., we have the Shield Final, and we want to send our condolences to the Lee family. With young Jason Lee losing his life earlier this week in a road traffic fatality. But now Wolves have even more something to play for. They play Young Men's Social Club in the final. Both Wolves and Social Club beat the two teams that were promoted, make it to this final. And, now they have even more an incentive in Wolves to win this final.
Yeah, I like to just spend a moment on the Jason Lee. I mean, I saw him at his prime at North Village under Sean Gooder. I mean, Sean Gooder loved the boy. He absolutely loved him, his power, his control, his eye for goal. And at the time, when he was under North Village, he was probably about 19, and he was powerful. He was powerful. He was a joy to watch how he loved the game, And with with Sean Goder's professionalism and eye for a striker, he done some very wonderful things with Jason Lee as a young kid. And I know he's well loved by his family, the Lee family, and I know this is a trying time for them, man. It's a definitely trying time for that community. And to be honest, I was happy to see that he scored in the.
I mean, fine.
It's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
It's the difference, man. He was definitely a player that at that age, he fell upon injury and stuff like that with his knee, but he was definitely capable of the professional environment.
Mm-hmm.
He was definitely capable, and you're right. Wolves are going to have added incentives, and I think they were going to be favorites for that game anyway, especially playing on the surface that they're going to be playing on. There's always going to be favorites, and social clubs had a mid-season meltdown. The coaches is Laughter got Pinks back at the helm. He's forever filling in in these times. So I think it favors. I think it definitely favors the Wolves community. That final. So I'll be definitely picking Wolves.
Interesting. Does Troy Tucker play? Because he's registered. Is he registered? I think he's registered for Wolves.
He is. It's definitely. I had a conversation with him, right? I had to go at him, right? Because, and I'm like, we're losing a good player, a football player, and he's always got this trump card that his kids do scrambling, and he's being a father, right? And I just can't argue with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't argue with him being a father, but can he play? Because is it rules that will prohibit him from playing if he's not played at least two games? That
a registered player is a registered player.
Is a registered player, because I get it. For me, you gotta convince him to play.
It's just like if you have a whole bunch of players away in school, they come back for the final.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any stipulations in the Shield whether or
No,
not.
it's actually not. It would be it was stipulations around the FA that you had to have played two games, but that's interesting. Troy Tucker, makes a difference. And another player that's totally impressed me at Wolves is London. I didn't see what I see out of London now playing for Wolves. I didn't see that out of him at Robinwood.
Yeah.
So it's like he's dynamic. He's back in his natural habitat, and he shows what he's capable of back in his natural habitat.
And it goes back to what I was telling you about somebody like Tamiko when he went his first season at Robinwood. They were allowed him to do so many things, and then they try to confine him. So with London, they were trying to make him a different player, a different style of player. But now back at Wolves, if you see him, he's a lot freer to do, what he's become a playmaker, he's become a leader, So yeah, you're right. I mean, in his natural habitat, he seems to be shining. No, he's not the headliner and scoring goals every week, but what he's doing on the field is making the team better. And if you quote unquote add someone like Troy Tucker, Troy makes the team better.
I've seen a different swagger out of London that I've never seen. I haven't seen. I've seen a different swagger out of him that I actually like. A different level of confidence in that natural habitat. And this is what we always talk about, right? We talked about in relation to Coates and Ray. When you put players in their natural habitats and you give them the information that's beneficial to them, you can see a total different player. You can see a different player. And I've seen that when I saw him, I said, I didn't know that guy could do that. I didn't know he could play like that. Mm-hmm. And we know Robin Wood's philosophy is more rigid, more physical. He just didn't fit into that. Mm-hmm. Whereas in his natural habitat in Wolves, he looks a player. Now I can see why he got called into the national team.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't see it before, but I can see it now.
Yeah. And then of course at 4 p.m. it's that final clash, but we'll know whether or not Dandy Town is still in it for the Triple Crown after Wednesday night. But let's see. At 4 o'clock on Sunday, it's
I know this feeling, man. I know this feeling. When you're got the Triple Crown on the line, I know this feeling. If you don't get it, nothing else is satisfying. Like nothing else matters, man. I know this feeling, and this show we're talked about the difference between a big team and a big club. So of course I'm done.
St. George.
St. George's today speaking to Wayne Campbell, where he recognized, they said, well, on this field right now, you got two big clubs, but they're not really big teams, at this moment. Dannytown has the ability to be a big team and a big club at the same time. They can hold that status at the same time if they can get this Triple Crown across the line, because they're definitely a big team. But do they want to enter the big club status? Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, so
and it's growing on them. It's growing on them like
I'm trying to remember the season that when Dennis Brown coached the Devonshire Cougars, and they at one point in time held every single
trophy,
Premier Division. But you don't refer to them as a big club.
No, definitely I do, because I refer to them as a big club because the invitation to be in a big club is the Triple Crown.
Okay.
So the invitation to sitting at that table is the Triple Crown. It's just like Man City. They're not really a big club yet. They're a big team. They're not won the Champions League. They can't come sit at the table with the Liverpools and the Manchesters, and the Chelseas. So,
right.
Dannytown, while they're a big team and they've been a big team for some time, if they want to sit at the table with the big clubs, they got to win the Triple Crown.
Wow.
And I think that's a fair enough. The football people, I've had this conversation with the likes of Carl Lightbourne, the national coach, and it's a fair enough analogy, right? It's a fair enough analogy. You definitely are a big team.
But since winning the league almost 2.5 weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago, Dannytown's played a lot of football.
They are, and that's the stature of a big club. You play the most football.
Yeah.
You actually play the most football. I mean, you see what Liverpool's doing right now. I mean, they got potentially 4 trophies that they're playing for. So you actually play the most football and you overcome the most circumstances. And everything points to the stars are aligned for them.
Yeah.
It points to, I'm seeing this before, and they keep getting across the line, man. They keep getting it across the line. They keep making good decisions. They keep making the right decisions at the right time in the games. They keep getting across the line, but they would know, as well as I know, as well as you know, as well as Bermuda's know, if they don't win the Triple Crown, they will not be satisfied.
Well, that's true. I mean, because if you make it to a final, you want to win it.
They're now.
Yeah.
They're in the final. It would be better if they just didn't. They wasn't in the final, and it's set up.
The talk wouldn't be had.
Yeah.
So as long as the talk is had, I mean, Wednesday night they've got to get themselves up, and then they have 3 or 4 days to get ready for another big fight, and that one will be even bigger because of the enormous pressure of knowing if they don't get it across the line, it's failed.
Yeah, and the pressure, if they get Wednesday night across the line, the pressure is amped up even more. I don't think when me, Streaker, and North Phillips were in that situation, I don't think that I had good night's sleep for good 3 weeks. And while the media and the newspaper thought they were, and my president, which is my dad at the time, were thinking they were doing something good and bringing the old Triple Crown people around, they wasn't doing anything good, man. That was just amping up the pressure on me, man. That was amping up the pressure on us. Like, we had the old Triple Crown, had breakfast, and I'm like, I don't want to hear this, man. I don't want to see this here. You're just amping the pressure up on the situation.
Yeah.
But it's exciting, right? It's exciting because Dannytown's got to transition through Cougars, which I think they will. I have to see how they come out of Cougars before I can call the one at PHC, because PHC.
Let's put it like this: Cougars' record at the National Sports Center of late has been really, really good.
Right.
In finals they've been in.
They're becoming a team that can win finals.
Yeah. So
they're becoming a club.
That one will not be easy. I mean, as you said before, Dannytown were dominating the season. The last final those two played in, and Devonshire Cougars handled that rather well, winning 3-1. So let's see. Come Wednesday night, we're working on a pre-game and post-game show for Wednesday night. We will inform you whether or not we will be able to actually bring that to you. But we're going to have some talks with the association regarding that. on Wednesday night. So if not, we'll be back on Sunday following the FA Cup's final at the stadium.
Yeah. Oh God, it's all to play for in a week.
All to play for
It's
Sunday.
all to play for a week, man. And I love this, right? Hey, you know how good it feels to be in this position of being a pundit rather than being in this position of being a coach or a player. Like it feels really good to be a pundit in this situation. I can literally say whatever I want, right?
Well, let's see if it. Who you picking for Wednesday night?
Wednesday night, I'm picking Danny Time. Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you what. I'm gonna go against you. I'm gonna take this.
Good as that. Yeah, I'm picking Danny Time.
Sunday Shield final.
I'm picking Sunday Shield final. I'm gonna go with Wolves.
I'm gonna go with Wolves as well.
Yeah.
FA Cup final. It's gonna be tricky because if Dandy Town don't win, what happens? If they win, what happens? So give me a scenario. If Dandy Town lose on Wednesday, who do you take for Sunday?
If Danny Town lose on Wednesday, I'm picking PXC.
If Dandy Town win on Wednesday,
I'm picking Danny Town. Doesn't get cross the line. Yeah.
Okay.
That's how I'm looking at it. If they lose on Wednesday, they're gonna be deflated, man. They're gonna be absolutely deflated. And I don't know with the injury situation that they got, the exhaustion that they got, that they can turn around and pick themselves up again.
I take the same thing. I take the same way.
But I think they're up on a high. They want this triple crown. They spoke of it publicly now. It's out of the bag. There's no shying away from it. We're taking one game at a time. No, they want the triple crown.
Only 2 games left.
Yeah, they want the triple crown. They want to sit at the big club's table. And I've mentioned this conversation to their president, Deval Boyles, right? And he said, well, we are a big club. I said, well, no, Boyles, this is what a big club is. You're a big team. And he didn't respond. So Boyles is a reasonable enough footballer and an experienced enough president to know the idea of the big club has to do with that triple crown. They want it. And you know what? GM Baxter wants it. GM Baxter.
Everybody knows GM.
We know where GM comes from. We know where their Danny Tom faithful come from.
Yeah.
They want it.
Yes, sir.
They want that triple crown badly.
Yes, indeed.
Don't be fooled by it.
Yep. Well, enjoy your night, brother.
Okay.
Okay. Have a good night, folks.